Welcome everybody to a tutorial on selecting lathe RPMs, okay, also known as speeds. So what we're going to be learning on this video pretty much is how to calculate your RPM for whatever project you're working on, and then how to actually set the speed on the lathe you are using, okay? So what we're going to cover is our first project here on the lathe, the two-step, okay? So here's the drawings for the project, pretty important to follow the drawings. And then here are all the steps, okay, on the process sheet. So you're going to need your process sheet whenever you're doing this project. It has all the steps to complete the project. How the process sheet kind of works, there's 3 different columns, okay? First column is operation number, kind of like step numbers. So we got step 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, kind of like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I don't know why it's in tens, but same concept. Then we have what machine you're using, okay? So for most of this, we're using the lathe, okay? Description of the step, okay? So what you actually are supposed to do. So read the description. Tells you what tools you should be using. Also gives you speeds and feeds, okay? So although it gives you speeds and feeds, we are going to practice setting it up on our own, okay? So what we need to do first is we need to do our first step here, which I did off camera. I did operation 20. I got some stock size of 7/8 diameter. Okay, it looks like this. So I measured it with a dial caliper, made sure it was 0.875 inches in diameter, which it is. And I used the horizontal bandsaw and cut it to a length of 4 1/8 inches. Okay, so I followed my process sheet. Make sure you do that, okay? 4 1/8 inches. You might look at your drawing and say, well, my drawing says 4 inches. Well, we're cutting it long because we're going to eventually machine it down to 4 inches in length. So follow your process sheet and you should be good. Cut it to 4 1/8. I use a grinder, or you can use a file, and then I deburred my part, okay? So you got to do that. So enough talking about the part. Our main focus is RPMs. How do we do that? Okay, so here's our formula for selecting RPMs. 4 multiplied by cutting speed divided by diameter of your part, diameter in inches, equals RPM. Okay, so I know the formula here. I'm going to write that down on my paper. So 4 multiplied by cutting speed divided by diameter equals RPM. Okay. Sorry that the P looks a little bit weird there. Kind of tricky to do this one-handed. All right. So 4 times cutting speed divided by diameter equals RPM. If we read this chart here, let's figure out what our cutting speed is for low carbon steel, because that's our material type. So cutting speed for low carbon steel is 80 surface feet per minute, okay? And the diameter of our part, like I mentioned, is 7/8 of an inch diameter, or 0.875. So I'm gonna do some simple math here. Plug the stuff into the equation. 4 times cutting speed, which is 80, divided by 0.875. That's gonna give us a number that I believe, if I remember correctly, you're going to want to use a calculator, but I believe it's close to 365 calculated RPM. Okay? All right. So that is our calculated RPM. Okay? Not every lathe is going to be able to get to that exact speed. Okay? So we got to work with the chart that is on our lathe, okay? So whatever lathe you're using, every lathe is a little bit different, but it's the same concept. So we calculated it. Now we got to set our lathe to the closest speed to 365 without going over. So we don't want to select a higher speed, okay? So I'm gonna use this chart here, which is on a poster on the wall, okay? Or it's on this little handout that I handed out to everyone. We're using the South Bend lathe, okay? So most South Bend lathes, or not most, all of them have a high speed, okay? Some of them have low speed. We're really just going to refer to this high speed column, okay? Because not every lathe has a low speed column. So we want to read this column on the chart and we could look at this one too, and we want to find the closest number to 365, which is 270, okay? You might argue that 418 is closer. Yes, it is, but it is over 365 RPM. It's too quick, okay? So we're going to use 270, okay? So 270 is our actual RPM, what we're going to set our lathe at. And we're going to use pulley number 4, okay? So this largest pulley. So how we actually select our speed now, pulley number 4, is we're going to go over to our lathe. We are going to disengage your belt tension lever, which is right here, okay? That already should have been disengaged, but if it wasn't, disengage it. You're going to go over here. Let's say our belt was way over here on pulley number 1, so it goes 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's say our belt was on pulley number 1. How do we get it to pulley number 4? Well, some people struggle, okay? They just try to lift straight up and move it over, okay? It doesn't move over if you do that, okay? And I'll show you why. So if I open up the bottom here, okay, there is the exact opposite of what we got going on up top. So on the bottom, we have a big pulley on the left, small pulley on the right. If I go up top, we have a small pulley on the left, big pulley on the right. So it's the complete opposite. So to get some slack in our belt, we got to move the bottom of the belt to a smaller pulley first, okay? And that's going to give us some slack in our belt. So you don't need to go down here and move the belt, okay, on the bottom. I'll show you how you can do it from above, okay? So just kind of showing you how it works. You don't need to open this door. All you got to do is move the belt, this bottom part, twist it over to the right first, and then you lift up, okay? And then you can move pulleys, okay? So once again, looks something like this. Moving the belt, this part to the right first. All right, engage the belt tension lever, and then our speed is set, okay? So now if I turn this lathe on, if I hit start, forward, in theory, this should be spinning at 270 RPM. So you have now set your speed for your lathe.